We want to thank Suttmeyer Law Firm for being a podcast show sponsor. Suttmeyer Law Firm has worked with numerous clients within our community for years, and they couldn't come more highly recommended. They offer legal advice and representation for a range of residential and commercial real estate law issues. Are you buying a house, refinancing, having mortgage problems, or contract disputes? The team at Suttmeyer Law Firm can guide you through these processes. As a special offer to our listeners, they are offering a free consultation when you mention the A is A Health podcast. Visit their website at suttmeyerlaw.com or call 315-363-7777 today.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that the starting place then for most people? Would you say that it comes down to most people are disconnected from themselves? They need to take a step back and gain some awareness, kind of review their past year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. Is that the starting place?
Yeah, I think each person might come with a different thing, right? So I go to the wellness part of like, people are like, I want to lose weight. And it's like, but what's that answer? The 5 whys of diagnostics. Like, let's get to the real why. I think most people might look in and say, I'm not happy. I'm really tired. I'm exhausted. I'm doing all the right things, but I still don't feel like what I want to feel like. Do I even know what that feels like? And I think if you ask the 5 whys, it goes to disconnection, but it might surface level of negative self-talk, frustrated with my job, frustrated with my family. It might be our projection outwards of what we're frustrated in the external world versus like, what can I own? Like, what do I know? What part do I play in this?
Do you think that there's I mean, you just mentioned that that's what a lot of people deal with is maybe being dissatisfied with their job, dissatisfied, not feeling generally happy. So maybe that's why they're seeking you out. Do you think that that kind of attitude, just general dissatisfaction with life, is that kind of on a rise lately in, like, let's say the last 5, 10, 20 years? And would you have a reason for that? Do you think you know why that's on the rise, or is it not on the rise?
I think it's on the rise. I'm excited it's on the rise, right? Like, I've learned in my life to welcome the contrast because it tells us like we want something different. But I think COVID gave people the chance to be with themselves, right? So it was already happening. You saw the memes that said, let's get back to normal. And I'm like, normal might not have been so serving, right? Like,
we said the same thing. Yep. We said the same thing.
Yep.
And so I think it gave you that like forced isolation where a lot of people run really fast. They think that's their bias. They think that's what's good for them. But when they slowed down, like, could they sit in that space? Could they sit with the people around them? Were they really satisfied? Or were they like, is this what life is? So I think it gave us all that look in the mirror to say, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing?
I heard that from so many people, Briane. We talked about this at the gym, like when they did the lockdowns and people were forced to stay home, remote work learning, they actually saw their kids and their spouse, right? Like, we heard it from so many people that they said, we don't want it to go back to normal. Like, we like life with less responsibilities and it's slower and less stressful. And like, I'm eating healthier because I'm home and I can cook more. Like, we heard this from a lot of people. And I really was optimistic and still am. I don't know if it'll happen, but that a lot of light bulbs went off during that time period. You saw that too.
Yeah. And I think there's so many light bulbs that went off, but I think it goes to, I had something happen to me today, right? Like, I'll just be transparent. Josh, you know me. I backed into my garage door because I wasn't going slow enough in life. I thought it was over. It was not. And it gave me a chance to check in and go like, how do I want to respond? It's not going to sweat. It'll get figured out. And it did. It was easy. But then some things that happened after of I've spent a year of deep healing and really looking at who I am personally too in the shift of the world. And a conversation came up and I'm like, of course this would, right? Like, when I shift my domino, the world doesn't get to say, oh, that feels great, right? There's this contrast. And I think a lot of people might have had the light bulb, I want something different, but the world doesn't change yet. So do people have the tools to handle that contrast of, oh, my partner might not be happy that I want to quit my job, or my partner might want to quit their job. And now I'm feeling this nervous and I haven't felt feelings like this before. So I think it's the both and of, yes, we're changing, but that doesn't mean it always feels good either.
And I think a lot of people are in this gray area right now. They were here, they sort of want to go here, but they're in this middle ground. And that is hard. It's scary. It's confusing, you know? But I can feel it, like with the amount of job openings out there, right? Like people aren't going back saying, I'm going to work for minimum wage and 2 weeks of vacation, you know, like there's so many changes going on. But I think it's because a lot of people, not that they're lazy by any means, I don't think, but I think they're calculating things differently this time around. And, you know, we were talking before you hopped on the call, you know, Ricky was saying that, you know, Planet Fitness, YMCAs, the gyms are dead right now. Like, and this is New Year's, and we, you know, have not seen that. It's always packed, right? Like the New Year's resolution group, but it's dead. And I just think that's all part of being in that gray area. You know, you mentioned being disconnected, maybe health isn't a priority. They're confused on where they're going. Like, it's an interesting time for sure.
Absolutely. Well, and I think too, what we define as wellness, right? So even for me, I didn't rejoin a gym until 2 weeks ago because I was outside as much as I could be. And I have a gym at home, but I'm like, I'm going to be in my woods over that. I want the fresh air. I want the cold air, like hitting me. So it might be that, but I also think when I started my healing journey, right? Like I was like, I do all the things. I eat right, I work out right, but my body still feels exhausted. And it's like, but do you really allow yourself to rest, slow down, and feel what your body is releasing? And so sometimes I think it's, do we allow people just to be? And I think that might be where people are forced to be right now, where it's like, I'm too tired, I can't wake up. And I remember the best mentor I had, I just want to sleep in. And she's like, that's your body healing. You should, like, anytime you want to sleep, just go sleep. And I'm like, that's counterintuitive to what productivity means. And so I think people are challenging their beliefs of what they built their life on. And they're like, oh, this isn't right. So there might be like, do I want to just believe it's right and stay here? Or do I step into the gray of the unknown of, I don't know what I believe right now?
I just wanted to take a quick break from this episode to tell you about one of my all-time favorite supplements, collagen protein. I've been taking collagen for over 15 years, and I consider it a staple in my daily health routine. Collagen is the primary building block of connective tissues, such as hair, skin, and nails, as well as ligaments, tendons, cartilage, and bone. If we don't get enough collagen, then these tissues age prematurely, leading to wrinkled skin, thinning hair, and painful joints. That's why I take collagen every day. It keeps my hair, skin, and nails healthy, and my joints strong and pain-free. The brand I use is Native Path. I choose Native Path because their collagen is the highest quality available. It's organic, it comes from grass-fed cows, it includes both type 1 and type 2 collagen peptides, and it's hydrolyzed, which is critical for better absorption. Native Path even makes collagen coffee creamers. I personally use the vanilla creamer, and it's absolutely delicious. I highly recommend adding collagen to your health routine. If you're interested, go to nativepath.com and use the coupon code AISA15 to get a 15% discount on your order.
You know, you keep going back to, it seems a big part of what you help people with is trying to encourage them to slow down and reflect and kind of be able to be in the moment and be, quiet, which a lot of people have a hard time doing. Do you find that you've mentioned like the productivity culture and stuff, everyone, there's like a rat race culture. So that's part of the problem. Is there also like an issue with social media and all that kind of stuff? I mean, we're also plugged in these days that I find that people have a very hard time being quiet because there's always a distraction right at your fingertips, with the phone and everything. Is this a big challenge that your clients face and you have to help them work through?
Yeah. And I think why I'm so good at it, I was one of them, right? Like my best friend gave me a book, Mindfulness in Plain English, which
is one of my favorite books. I've read that several times. Love
really?
it.
I've never heard of that.
I've got it on my bookshelf, Josh. I'll bring it to the gym for you.
Yes, please do.
And then there's a sequel to it too. I think it's like beyond mindfulness in plain English or something where he goes even further. But yeah, great book.
I haven't read the second one, but thank you.
Yeah.
But I think with it is what society, what your job, what others see. So if you're slowing down, like, can you just be and feel worthy, right? Or do you feel that like you have to prove or do something? And so to your point, I think social media, you see people hustling, having side cultures, you see people doing all of the things with their children. So can you notice the feelings that like rise up? Guilt, shame, comparison, jealousy, enviness, judgment, where you're like, I wouldn't do that. And then go, oh, are those mine? Like, what are they telling me? Do I need to do anything with it? I think we've disconnected. I had a client one time, it was interesting. Her family was saying, when you're with us, you're on your phone all of the time. But when we really pulled it back, she was on her phone when the conversation got to a place where she didn't want to be. So it was like a literal block of like, I'm disconnecting from this energy and this is a way I can escape. So I think we've created so many healthy escapes or normal escapes that it doesn't look like the other ones where you're like, oh, you drink too much, or, oh, you smoke, that's not good. If you're on your phone 10 hours a day, it's like, wow, I might not tell anybody I'm on 10 hours a day, but that's a lot. It's a distractor from the reality. And why am I distracted? Why am I distracting myself?
Yeah, you said something right there that resonated really quite a bit with me with like, can we slow down and still feel worthy?
Mhm.
Like that's pretty powerful because we've been told all the way through grade school and into the workforce now that to do more, buy more, accomplish more. And I fall into that category. I push hard, but I find that when I'm not pushing, slowing down and what I would define as like not accomplishing is hard because you do start to get those thoughts that you were just describing, those characteristics. And so, and that's just learned behavior. There's nothing wrong with being quiet or slowing down or having a few months where you're re-looking at things like, but I'll tell you, and I'm speaking only for myself, but and a lot of our clients, but getting into that mental arena of just being okay with being, that's hard.
Yeah.
I think probably people have to realize that there's value to that. Like you said, you feel guilty when you slow down a little bit because we're pushed to always be productive or whatever. But maybe you need to teach people that that's not something to feel guilty about. It's something you're doing something good for yourself there. That's actually a very productive thing to do, even though you're not doing anything in the eyes of the world or the workforce or whatever.
Absolutely. And I think, Josh, it's so true, right? When you sit with it, you're like, oh, this is hard, right? And sometimes our words carry vibrations too, where we're like, this is hard. And it's like, it's different. Like, this is a different way of viewing. And can I sit in the difference of, I'll speak for myself, right? Quit my job and people are like, what are you going to do next? And I'm like, first, I'm going to get well rested. And then I'm going to play and pick what I want to focus on. And people are like, so you're not going to do anything. And I'm like, and I would notice how I wanted to respond, right? Like a part of me was like, yes, I'm doing stuff. But I'm like, no, I'm going to rest. I'm going to do this. And I'm going to be really intentional with my choices. And to watch how others respond, I see where it's easy for people to fall back in doubt. Are they on the right path? And so I think it's working a new muscle of I'm changing beliefs and not everything around me is changing. And so how do I fit in the Reiki principles are I'll honor my truth, but I'll honor your truth. And that's easy. You're like, yeah, Josh, do your thing. But then when Josh doesn't agree with your thing, you're like, wait, you're not honoring my truth. And you're like, but that's your truth. So I have to honor that you don't honor my truth, right? Like it's the mind games that you're like, did we just go down another rabbit hole? And the answer is like, yes.
Well, and that question that person asked you when you told them what you were going to do for the first few weeks or a month after quitting your job is sort of an indication of how low self-care is as a priority for that person. Like everything that you described with resting and, reloading, like that's self-care. That's like really good. So then you can be the optimal version of yourself. And they just sort of skimmed over that like you're doing nothing, and that's a shame, and I think that that's how the majority of people would view that. Like if I said I was going to go to Costa Rica for a month, fill up on vitamin D and go for walks and heal my body and my mind, like I think 90% of people would think that that's just a vacation, that's selfish, and that you're not working yourself to death. I think people would think that,
And how many people though do say like when I'm walking, when I'm biking is when I get my best ideas, and like, can we connect? It's the space away. It's the ability to allow yourself to play.
I just want to interrupt this amazing podcast with a brief message about one of our sponsors, Lombardi Chiropractic in Oneida, New York. I found Dr. Pete 8 years ago due to my continual discomfort and pain in my back. And as an active athlete and someone who likes to play hard, my sessions in the gym started to regress. My sleep went downhill. After a comprehensive evaluation by Dr. Pete's team, I was given a detailed treatment plan. After 3 months of care, my body felt amazing. I have used Dr. Pete as my personal chiropractor for the last 8 years and attribute much of my physical abilities and overall health to his approach with chiropractic care. The good news is Lombardi Chiropractic is offering a 50% discount on the initial exam and x-rays to all new members that use the coupon code A is A. So stop trying to self-diagnose and save yourself time and money by visiting lombardichiropractic.com and schedule your initial consultation today.